Hi, Crime Stoppers. Welcome back. Today we're heading out to the shop to work on the 26 Oakland. Dad will be here shortly, and we don't even know what we're going to do today, but we're going to do something, and we've got a whole bunch of projects that need to be accomplished, like the oil pan, and we have wheels that need to be cleaned and painted, and oh, we just got stuff. So let's just watch the show intro. We'll see you in about 30 seconds. I'm Mike, and all of this is My Car's Shop.
Working out of a 100-year-old refurbished barn, bringing 35 years of experience to projects considered beyond repair. Vision, creativity, and problem solving are essential tools in this place. Watch as we transform junk into polished metal miracles. This is My Car's Shop.
So one of the things that needs to happen before we can do anything is that car needs to go out. But to move that car out, we have to get this stuff put away from the last 3 or 4 episodes that we've been working on with the Challenger floor pans and the deck lid and John's 66 Belvedere carburetor and just stuff. And in order to move that out, well, we need to move that out also because that cherry picker is there from moving in the new arbor press that we just recently acquired from John. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. And all of that has to happen so that we can get at the Oakland to even be able to work on it because there's just not a lot of room between the Oakland and the 47. And so it's just a whole series of sequences that need to be accomplished. I didn't realize that my trash needs to be dumped also. So I'm going to get on that. Well, Dad's on his way here. He called me just a few minutes ago and said he's on his way. So that's good. And then we will get on that and start working on it because I know a lot of you have been wondering why we haven't been working on it. Well, I've been out of town and he's been out of town and our schedules have not coordinated for us to be able to get together and work, but today's the day. All right, so I guess we decided the first thing we're going to do is prep the oil pan one more time to do the screens, because that's going to be a job of work to get that done. But the pan is rusty from sitting for a month or 6 or whatever it was. So Dad's going ahead and spraying that down with the super clean wheel cleaner, which should do a nice job of cleaning all that up. We'll let that soak for 30 minutes or so, and then probably start working on trimming the screens up and getting that done. It's always the joy of projects like this you don't get to for a while. You have to go back and fix some things that have deteriorated from sitting. So, but no big deal. It'll also give us a chance to check the pan one more time for any more leaks that we might have missed. Well, he's actually working. I'm going to play supervisor and do nothing. I wanted to mention we had all kinds of challenges last time getting the solder to stick, and I got thinking about it and realized that the problem is that modern solders don't contain lead, and I'm pretty sure solder that's 75 years old does. And I think they tend to act like oil and water. So we picked up a, I don't know, 1/4 pound spool of real solder that should do the job. It has lead in it. So that should make our lives a lot easier, but that was why we were struggling so much to patch the oil pan holes. Why some of them patched right up and then other ones didn't. So we're going to go ahead and start cutting the screens, and I was just looking for something that would be similar size. This is just a slight bit big, but I think if we use this to trace and then cut inside and just trim it down to fit, it should work to fit those screens, to cut the screens out. So we'll set this aside and we'll go ahead and start doing that.
This has to go over to be washed.
Yeah, I would just set it out there for now. Because 30 minutes or so, we'll take it up and hose it. So just FYI for people that are going to do this, the elm means nothing. So, but this is the screen that we purchased. It was from McMaster Car. Yeah, it was a 257 thousandths 28 inch by 28 inch mesh. But it's 316 stainless steel. If you're looking for it and you need it, that's where to get it. And it wasn't terribly expensive. I think this piece was, I don't know, $50, $70, something like that. Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Yeah, okay. So Dad went ahead and traced that, and he's going to go ahead and cut it out. Let's see if the black shows up. I couldn't find the red marker, so.
Do you want it exact to the line, or since it's got to go a little smaller?
I would cut it inside the line about 1/8 of an inch or a little more, because we're still probably going to have to trim it down from that, but it would be a start.
Okay.
Or you can cut it on the line and then trim it in. Those cutters don't take them all the way back in the jaw, because the teeth end about right where you're, or the scissor end ends right where you're at. You see it?
Okay.
So I'm having him do this, that way if it gets screwed up, it's not my fault. Here we go. One down, one to go. Okay, so we knew it was going to be too big. We were just looking to get it close, and then we're just going to take and kind of trace it around to about where it goes in there. Here, I can't even move and target. Get it from this way now. Doesn't have to be perfect, but what do you think about like that?
Yeah. Should we eyeball that up on the other one just to be sure?
Yeah, yep, for sure.
Not any different?
Yep. All right, so he's going to go ahead and trim that down now, and then we'll make the other one to match that one. So that should be a good step forward. And I would think you could be on the line or outside the line, because we've got latitude. You know, it doesn't have to be
On the outside of the line?
or I would say on the line probably.
Okay.
Yeah. So that should solder okay. Even that way a little bit, but I mean size-wise it's good. So.
Yeah, I think so. Could be a little bit larger, probably.
Yeah, even if you pull it out of here, pull it out of there and see what I mean. The solder is back. There's still another 1/8 of an inch of material that it's not.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So,
I couldn't see that.
right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's in here.
Yep.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Okay, let's make the other one the same size then.
Okay. Just use this as a
Yep.
template.
So Dad pointed out that we have the edge of this baffle, which is the oil return, where the oil return tube falls down in here and squirts the oil back into the oil pan from circulating through the engine, is rusted, and that's a bit of a concern. So we're going to take a cutoff wheel and at least take the debris pieces off of there, and just so that we're concerned that over time a little chunk could fall in the pan and get sucked up into the oil pan, and there's no pickup screen on this oil pump, so that means any little piece of debris is going into the pump, and that wouldn't be good. Okay, so you can see that we came in here now and just kind of took all of that loose scale off, and there was a couple of spots over there that we did the same thing on. So we'll just rinse this pan out now
Actually, you can run a magnet around in there too and pick up some of that loose scale and stuff that's laying around. Just make sure we get it cleaned out real good, and then we'll hose it out with carb spray and dry it out real good and be ready to solder.
So the oil pan is washed, rinsed, lathered, repeated, and many times. We washed it out with carb spray, then with prep sol, dried it out real good, and it's lunchtime. So we're gonna let it sit out here on the 88 Dodge drying rack and dry out real good, and it should be ready to start the soldering project when we get back. So don't go away. We'll be right back after a short message from our sponsor. So we're just getting ready to clean the surfaces up and re-tin the surfaces. And we just did a little test piece over here with the real solder instead of the fake solder that has no lead in it. And it melts in just fine like it's supposed to. So we ended up with some little wire shards and stuff inside the oil pan. So we blew it out again real good. We're just making sure we got all the dirt out. Don't think we need to wash it, but just running around with the magnet to make sure none of those little wires from that finger shredder 5000 are in there and going to cause us future problems like this one would right here. But there's one down in there. I just keep dropping it. I don't know what. Could put a small magnet down here in the bottom of the pan to gather any material, that metal material that might be loose in this engine. It's a common practice in newer engines for that to be in there from the factory. I got to think about whether or not that makes sense in this situation or not. So in the meantime, I've got a little dent in their lip over here I want to tap out. So our next step now is we're going to go around and tin this and get that ready to be able to press that stainless steel screen down in. And then we'll have to go back through and probably add a little more solder to it. But I think that's probably going to be the best way to do this. Having never done it before, I don't know. So after this video is done, there'll be a great video on how to install oil screens in a 26 Oakland. And I will go and watch that video to learn how to do this. Standing in everybody's way. Water in the bottom of the pan. Try not to hit your wrist, sorry. Yeah, it doesn't want to stick over here for some reason. Have to clean it. May have to. Sorry. And we got solder dripped down in the pan, of course, now, so we got to clean that again.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Not very well engineered. Probably if you know what you're doing, it's not so bad.
You need to have a way of putting pressure
Yes.
down on that as well.
Yeah, and I took the screwdriver that we had and I shoved it under here, so let me get one. I even wondered about just putting some weight in the center of that, but I'm concerned that's not controllable. You think a screwdriver or like using a screwdriver with the handle down against the, because that way you can work it, you can use it here or you can flip it around and do this, you know. That's probably what needs to happen.
Yeah,
Where is it?
Even if something a little bigger, like a wooden
Mm-hmm.
peg, or something that would
Right.
work like a finger rather than a sharp point.
I'm wondering about starting where it's tight. I just was looking and it's tight right here.
Uh-huh.
So if we start there, then we shouldn't have to worry about it, and we can start. Then once this tacks up, we can start. And yeah, I like your idea of wood. We can use a piece of wood to kind of hold it down as we go forward.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if we start where it's already down, and of course we can't do both sides, we have to do one side.
Right, work your way around, right?
Okay, so let's find a little wooden dowel or something. The more we've talked about this, the more things come back to me from 700 years ago when I would actually do lead work on cars, and there was a lot of different wooden paddles you would use. I don't have any of those, so we're going to try to use this broken hammer handle and a couple of screwdrivers and other things and see if we can get it. But I think the place to start is right here. So if you like, I don't know where the place to hold down is. Maybe over here. Come where my finger is.
Oh, over there.
Yeah. Because that's holding all of this down all the way over to about here. Now I know when we hit heat on that, there's no telling what's going to happen, but
All right. And you're going to work this way?
yes, I'll actually start in here and try to flow back that way and then start working this way.
Okay.
But I don't know what's going to happen when we get heat on that screen. It could go wonky. So
And the other thing is, working this way, the heat's going to be blowing against this.
I'm going to try to come from here.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds better. Yeah, either that way or...
Oops, I just knocked your wood on the floor there.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
so if I come in this way, like this, I can't lean on the pan now, and just try to, and then come behind it with the solder as we've heated it up.
Okay. And then I may be able to push it down.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think once we'll get a spot done, and then we'll see what happens. We may want to just let that set up a little bit before we go on.
okay.
And try to keep this heat down. We got to get the screen heated. We got to get the tin heated. There it goes. You get too heavy hips to that. It's not. I don't have the puddle I want yet.
Okay. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Okay, there we're starting to go. Yep, we're getting there.
Tell me when.
Stay there. Stay there. I want to try to get a puddle going.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I think I know what I want now. Is that wood that we just dropped on the floor? Just hang on. Did you pick that up?
It's right there now.
I think that's going to work, and that way you can just stay there until we need it to. I can go probably a little bit more, and then we'll need to have you come around.
Okay.
We're getting the technique down now, and we've only put about 2 pounds of solder under the screen, so that's going to be fun. But what we've determined is we went around and tacked it as you saw, but we need to get a puddle of solder kind of on the edge of the screen, and then right before it hardens, we take our little wooden paddle thing and kind of just brush it in. And that's actually what it looked like on the other one when we took it off. So, which is very similar to techniques used in paddling lead when you're doing bodywork. So we've got kind of a nice little puddle there now. You can see on that tail end it's kind of glomming up. We'll just give it a second. And then hopefully, or we give it too long. And you can see that we can just kind of go back in and work it in. If we had real paddles, it would be helpful. Ouch, that's hot. Probably should wear a glove. We keep going backwards and forwards. I'm getting to know what I want. It's just developing the technique to get there. Okay, that's good.
It needs to be held down, right?
A little bit, yeah.
There's a lid there that's moving it up.
Okay.
No, it's not going to help you much. You can see we're slowly developing the technique. It's just going to take some time to perfect it, and we'll have all kinds of extra lead in the pan. Okay, we figured out the technique finally. As we get over here, we're getting better. We did go back over this way. So we've tinned it. That's already done. And the issue is too much heat. So we really need to be dripping the solder down on there and then letting it flow a little bit and then going back through with the wooden paddle and smoothing it out and kind of puttying it in as the solder gets somewhat malleable and less liquid. And this is exactly the way you do body work with this, but I haven't done that in 30 years, so I'm a little bit out of practice at it, and it's taking a while for the technique to come back. But I've not done this particular job before, but some of the skills are coming back and some of the techniques. So, yeah, we've only got, a third left to do, so well, let's just stop talking and get it done. Well, for not knowing what the heck we were doing, we definitely did it. We'll go over this gently with a wire brush just to make sure that there's no loose solder. Dad spent quite a bit of time with a screwdriver and a wire reaching up in there, knocking loose any little blobs of solder that were stuck. We're going to change the way we do it on this side so that we'll start over here and solder it about 1/3 of the way around, and then that way any solder that has fallen down in there, we can pick the screen up, knock it loose, and get it out of there before we seal it up. But we were able to get everything out of there on this side, so other than the nut behind the torch kept forgetting to look where he was pointing and putting some heat stains on there, which is no big deal. It's looking good, so one down, one to go. Okay, as we go along, I'm getting better and better at this technique, and so I'll show you how I'm doing it now and how it's working. And this won't work now because the camera's on. But I literally did this 2 inches in about a minute. So I've got it well tinned, I've got it well fluxed, and I'm just going through and with my solder, and I'm just dripping the solder along the edge of the screen, making a nice big puddle. Kind of blowing my heat back over the solder that's already there. And the goal is not to get much heat on the oil pan yet. Remember, we've already adhered the solder to the oil pan very well. So our goal here is just to drip solder. Get a nice puddle to work with. So we'll get another inch or so here. A little easier when you're okay. That'll work. So now we just go back and loosen this up a little bit. And just kind of push it ahead. So you can see now I'm just that puddle of solder that I had, I'm just kind of working it around and bringing it with me. So one of the changes we made, and we probably already said this, but we decided to go ahead and start on the end here and then allow us to pick this up. Sorry, I just got a bee on me. And go in there and scrape out any of the miscellaneous solder. So if you're doing this, this is the way to do it by far. Made it a lot easier than taking a piece of wire and trying to poke up in there and loosen up any little splash over. So we're going to come another inch, probably about like here and here, so we got about an inch of clearance, and then we can check it one more time, and then we should be able to finish it out, and any splash that gets in there we can reach up and under here through there and get. Just like that. It's really hard to get in there on that. The heat bounces back off the side of the oil pan. Okay, we're good.
my wooden towel. Excuse me. Sorry. And I can see my edge in here, so I know I'm into the tinning, but I'm still back far enough away that I'm not too concerned about dripping down into the pan itself. Oops. If you don't feel like you have enough where you were before, just bring the new puddle back. And the blob over there, I can just bring that back once it's molten, put it in place where I want it. And good to go. Got just a little bitty window in there. Work it out the way you want. But that's how she goes. So Dad is just making sure that any of the little beads of solder down in there, that we've got those knocked loose and out of there before we go further. While he's doing that, I'm going to tell a story that y'all find interesting, I think. Get us both in the shot here because he'll have something to contribute. There we go. So, drummer from our band, Scott, my band partner, was at a car show in Midland, Michigan last weekend and ran into a 1918 Page, was talking to the owner and happened to mention that his bandmate has a 26 Oakland. And the guy started telling this story about, oh yeah, I know of an Oakland up in the Keweenaw, up in the copper country of Michigan, that's been stored since 38, whatever. And started talking about the car and hasn't seen the light of day, whatever. I don't remember all the details. And Scott says, huh, that sounds like my bandmate Mike Rule's car. And the guy lit right up and said, my grandmother was a Rule. Same car. Yep, same car. Turns out that great-grandpa had 3 sisters, Dad?
Yes.
Great-grandpa had 3 sisters that married 3 brothers. And one of those sisters has to be this guy's grandmother. And so he knew the family history of the car and so forth. So I know where he lives. I know he owns a 1918 Page, and I know his last name. And that's confirmed. That's definitely family. Last name was Langdon. So I am going to chase this guy down and see if he would like to see the Oakland that he probably hasn't seen since he was a kid. So, interesting story. Scott, thanks for sharing it. Dad, thanks for giving me details, because I don't remember all this stuff. But slowly we're narrowing it down, and I'm going to chase this guy down and have a chat with him.